silence. A shattered city, where the wind howls through charred ruins. Ellie creeps in the shadows, her knife glinting under moonlight. Her eyes are a storm, rage, pain, something sinister she hides even from herself. Somewhere else in this broken world, Abby clenches her fists, her heart ablaze with vengeance. Two women, two fates, one chilling truth, a darkness lives in us all, capable of destroying love. What if, when love is all we have left, it becomes our Achilles heel? Today, we dive into The Last of Us, Season 2, through the lens of Carl Gustav Jung's philosophy. His concept of the shadow, the hidden, suppressed part of our soul, reveals why Ellie and Abby lose those they cherish. Ready to peer into the darkest corners of their hearts? Buckle up, this journey will reshape how you see love and maybe even yourself. Why do we fall for those who hurt us? Why does anger sometimes overpower tenderness? Jung taught that the shadow is everything we conceal, fears, shame, desires we're too scared to name. It's the voice whispering, "You're not worthy of love," or screaming, "Get even or you'll vanish." In 2025, social media buzzes with stories. "I lost my best friend over a petty fight because I couldn't speak my truth." The shadow wrecks closeness if we don't face it head on. Ellie and Abby are mirrors of this struggle. Their love, for family, friends, lovers, burns through the fire of their darker sides. Ellie gazes at Dina, her new flame, but her shadow murmurs, "You don't deserve happiness after everything." Abby yearns to protect those dear to her, but her past roars, "Revenge is your only path." How does this darkness twist their love? And can we dodge the same trap? Think of the myth of Medea. She loved Jason so fiercely she sacrificed everything, family, home, her very soul. But his betrayal turned her love to fury, and she razed all she held dear. Ellie and Abby are modern Medeas. Their shadow, rage, fear, thirst for vengeance, threatens everyone they care about. Jung warned, deny the shadow, and it takes the wheel. In Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, the characters erase memories to escape love's pain, but the hurt returns because they shun their shadow. In 2025, Mexico's fans rave about Joel, Ellie's father figure, and his sacrifices for love. In the States, they debate Abby's gender-defying strength. In Argentina and Peru, viewers say, "This show's about family, about fighting for those we love." But what if that fight makes us worse? Jung believed the shadow isn't the enemy, it's part of us. Embracing it means getting real with ourselves. Ellie and Abby teach us, love in a crumbling world isn't just a feeling. It's a choice. A choice to stare into your darkness and not flinch. Ask yourself, what are you hiding from those you love? What's keeping you from being closer to them? In 2025, as the world hunts for hope, The Last of Us is a mirror. It's not just a show. It's a reflection of our hearts, where love and darkness walk hand in hand. And if you think you know how their story ends, think again. The most jaw-dropping truths are still to come. Why do we shy away from our deepest truths? What makes us bury our strongest desires? Carl Gustav Jung taught that a shadow lurks in every soul, a part we lock away. It's not just our flaws or vices. It's fears, shame, dreams we're too afraid to voice. Picture this, you love someone, but you're terrified they'll see your doubts, your rage. So what do? You hide it. But Jung warned, the more we suppress the shadow, the louder it roars. In The Last of Us, Season 2, Ellie and Abby embody this battle. Their love, for Dina, for friends, for their past, drowns in the shadow they can't embrace. But what if Jung was onto something? What if facing the shadow is the only way to keep love from crumbling? Jung believed the shadow is a core piece of our psyche. It forms when we reject what we deem wrong. So you strive to be kind, but deep down, you envy a friend's success. That envy is your shadow. Ignore it, and it creeps out in arguments, sharp words, or choices you regret. In 2025, experts say 7 out of 10 relationship fights stem from buried feelings. A fan from Peru shared online, "I snapped at my husband over his job, but really, I was scared he'd leave me." Jung called this projection. We spot in others what we refuse to see in ourselves. Ellie blames the world for her losses, but her real fight is within. Her shadow is the fear she's unworthy of love after all she's endured. Abby despises those who took her family, but her shadow is guilt for failing to save them. How often do we cast our shadows onto those we hold dear? Think of the myth of Odysseus. He roamed for years, battling monsters, but his toughest fight was with himself, his dread that he didn't deserve to come home. Jung said the shadow is our inner Odysseus. We fear it because it lays bare our truth. In Fight Club, the hero creates Tyler Durden to unleash his shadow, rage, a craving for freedom, a rebellion against the world. But Tyler wrecks his life because the hero doesn't embrace his darkness consciously. Ellie and Abby tread a similar path. Their shadows, anger, fear, thirst for revenge, jeopardize all they love. Ellie looks at Dina, but her shadow whispers, "You can't be happy until you settle the score." Abby wants to shield her new allies, but her past screams, "You must punish the guilty." Jung offered another way, a conversation with the shadow. It's not about becoming cruel or weak. It's about asking, "What am I afraid of? What am I hiding?" And most crucially, how does this hurt those I love? In 2025, with debates raging over gender, identity, and family, Jung feels more relevant than ever. In Mexico, fans of The Last of Us praise Abby for shattering stereotypes of strength, but her shadow is the vulnerability she conceals. In the States, they dissect Ellie's balance of fury and tenderness, her power and fear of loss. Jung would say their shadows are their humanity. Embracing the shadow means admitting we're not perfect. It's tough but vital. Recall The Matrix. Neo had to accept his doubts to become the chosen one. Ellie and Abby haven't found that path yet, but their journey shows love demands honesty, not with others, but with ourselves. Ask yourself, what are you hiding from those you love? What would happen if you stopped? Jung teaches us, the shadow isn't a curse. It's the key to making love stronger than fear. But how will Ellie and Abby face this challenge? Their choices will shape not just their fate, but what we see in our own hearts. Ellie is a wildfire, tearing through everything in her path. Her heart beats for Dina, her new love, but every step is clouded by rage. She's not just surviving in a world that's falling apart. She's wrestling with a shadow born of loss. Picture this. Ellie gazes at Dina, her eyes soft with affection, but her fingers grip a knife. Something inside her screams, "You can't be happy until you get even." That's her shadow, pain, fear, a hunger for revenge. Jung would say Ellie's burying her dread that she's unworthy of love after all she's been through. Her anger is a mask hiding her vulnerability. But how does this shadow threaten her love? And why do we so often let rage burn down what matters most? Ellie isn't just a character, she's a reflection of our own battles. Her shadow stems from the losses she faced in the first season. Joel, her father in spirit, taught her to love, but his choices left scars. Now Ellie fears that to love is to lose again. Jung taught that the shadow grows stronger when we deny it. Ellie tries to be tough, to protect Dina, but her rage spills out like a blaze. In 2025, people share online, "I yelled at my mom, but really, I was scared she didn't get me." Experts say 6 out of 10 family fights spark from bottled-up emotions. Ellie shouts, fights, and chases revenge across a broken world, but her real war isn't with enemies. It's with the shadow whispering, "You'll never be safe." Think of the myth of Achilles. His rage after losing his friend Patroclus drove him to vengeance, but it brought no peace. Like Ellie, Achilles was blinded by a shadow, pain he couldn't face. In Gladiator, Maximus lives for revenge, but his quest only deepens his emptiness. Ellie walks that same road. Her love for Dina is a beacon, but the shadow of rage pulls her into darkness. In one scene, Dina reaches to hold Ellie, but she pulls away, her eyes heavy with guilt. Why? Her shadow tells her. You can't love until you fix the past. Jung would ask, what if revenge isn't the answer, but a trap? Ellie risks losing Dina because she doesn't see. Her anger isn't strength, it's fear. How often do we choose fury over admitting our pain? In 2025, we see this everywhere. In Argentina, fans write, Ellie's like me when I'm mad at my brother, but really, I'm scared of losing him. In Mexico, they talk about how family ties help tame anger. Jung taught, the shadow doesn't vanish if you ignore it. You have to face it. Ask, what am I afraid of? For Ellie, it's the fear she's not enough for love. Her rage is her way of drowning that fear. But love takes guts to admit you're vulnerable. In Hayao Miyazaki's Howl's Moving Castle, Sophie embraces her fears, and it makes her stronger. Ellie hasn't learned this yet, but her journey is a lesson. Ask yourself, when did you last lash out at someone close? What were you hiding behind that anger? Ellie shows us, the shadow can torch love if we don't find the courage to face it head on. Abby is a dark fable, where strength and sorrow intertwine. She presses forward, muscles taut, but her eyes betray guilt. Her heart teeters between a thirst for revenge and love for those who've become her kin. Picture this. Abby looks at Lev and Yara, two teens who've become her family, and for a moment, her shadow fades. But one memory of her past, and rage returns, like chains dragging her back. Her shadow isn't just a craving for vengeance, it's guilt for those she couldn't save. Jung would say Abby is learning to embrace her shadow, but the cost is steep. How does love help her tame this darkness? And why do we so often cling to the past, wrecking our future? Abby isn't just a warrior. She's a soul whose shadow was forged in loss. Her past is a wound that won't heal. She lost those she loved, and that pain morphed into anger, a drive to punish the guilty. But Jung taught, the shadow turns destructive when we deny it. Abby tries to be unbreakable, but her strength is a facade. Recall the scene where she saves Lev and Yara. Her hands shake, but she smiles. In that instant, love outshines her shadow. In 2025, a woman in Mexico blogged, I hated my dad for years, but forgiving him set me free. Abby starts to see, revenge won't heal her. Her love for her new companions teaches her to forgive, not others, but herself. But how hard is it to take that leap? Think of the myth of Orpheus. He ventured into the underworld to reclaim Eurydice, but his fear made him look back, losing her forever. Abby, like Orpheus, stares at her past, but her love for Lev and Yara keeps her from turning. In Inception, Dom Cobb wrestles with guilt over his wife's loss, but only by facing it can he move on. Abby does the same. Her shadow isn't just anger, it's shame for failing those she loved. Jung would ask, what if forgiveness isn't weakness but strength? Abby learns to channel her shadow, using it to protect others. Yet each time her past resurfaces, she teeters on the edge. Why do we hold on to old grudges, even when they tear us apart? In 2025, this hits home for many. In Argentina, fans write, Abby's like me, holding on to a fight with my sister until I realized it was poisoning me. In the States, they praise Abby for breaking gender norms, but her shadow is her humanity. Jung taught, embracing the shadow means owning your mistakes. Abby does this when she chooses to save, not avenge. In Avatar: The Last Airbender, Zuko accepts his shadow, anger, shame, and becomes a hero. Abby walks a similar road, but it's paved with pain. Ask yourself, what from your past keeps you chained? What stops you from forgiving yourself? Abby shows us, love isn't an escape from the shadow, it's the strength to embrace it. But can she hold on to this light when her past knocks again? In a world falling to pieces, the shadow screams louder. Imagine ruined cities where the echo of footsteps drowns in the wind's wail. No food, no safety, just a fight to survive. In The Last of Us, Season 2, Ellie and Abby aren't just battling enemies. Their true war is with the shadow shouting, "Take what you can or you're done." Why does darkness reign in the post-apocalypse? Jung would say, the world's chaos amplifies our deepest, darkest emotions. Anger, fear, and vengeance become more than feelings, they're instincts. But how does this chaos twist love? And why do we, even in calmer times, let the shadow take over when life gets rough? The post-apocalypse in the show isn't just a backdrop. It's a mirror, making every character's shadow sharper. Ellie wants to shield Dina, but her rage drives her to brutal acts. Abby seeks redemption, but her past pulls her toward revenge. Jung taught, in times of crisis, the shadow takes center stage because we fear looking weak. In a world with no tomorrow, love feels like a luxury, and anger feels like power. Recall the 2020s, when the pandemic tore people apart. Online, folks wrote, "I fought with friends over nothing because I was scared of what's next." Experts say 8 out of 10 conflicts in tough times come from fear. Ellie and Abby are us when chaos cranks up our shadows. But why does darkness win so easily? Think of the myth of Pandora. She opened the box, unleashing woes, but hope lingered at the bottom. In the show's post-apocalypse, hope is love, but the shadow is every woe set free. In Mad Max: Fury Road, characters live in chaos, but their darkness, rage, greed, nearly destroys them. Ellie and Abby face the same. Ellie fears losing Dina, and her shadow says, "Revenge will make you strong." Abby wants to protect Lev and Yara, but her shadow whispers, "You can't fix the past until you punish the guilty." Jung would ask, what if chaos isn't an excuse, but a test? The shadow rules because we let fear call the shots. But can we love when the world's collapsing? In 2025, this echoes everywhere. In Brazil, fans write, "Ellie and Abby are like us, losing hope but still clinging to family." In the States, they see the show's chaos reflecting social unrest. Jung taught, the shadow grows in hard times, but it can be tamed. How? With honesty. Ellie and Abby haven't found that path, but their struggle is a lesson. In Interstellar, Cooper fights for his family in a dying world, and his love beats fear. Ellie and Abby could do the same if they faced their shadows. Ask yourself, what takes over when your life feels like chaos? Anger? Fear? Or love? The post-apocalypse shows us, the shadow's strong, but love's stronger. But how do you find that strength when everything says hope's gone? How do you face the darkness within? In 2025, we're still grappling with shadows and love, jealousy, anger, the fear of being cast aside. These emotions are our personal apocalypses, where love becomes a battlefield. Jung taught, embracing the shadow means owning your truth. But how do you do that when the world's noise drowns you out, and your heart aches? In The Last of Us, Season 2, Ellie and Abby learn this through loss and struggle. Their journey isn't just drama, it's a lesson for us. How can we, everyday folks, muster the courage to face our shadows? And what if love isn't just pain, but the key to healing? Imagine, you love someone, but you're scared to show your flaws. So you hide them, build walls. But Jung said the shadow doesn't vanish if you ignore it. It shows up in fights, silence, or words you wish you could take back. In 2025, a fan from Argentina posted, "I was afraid to tell my boyfriend my fears, but when I did, he got me." Experts say 6 out of 10 relationship issues start with buried emotions. Ellie hides her fear of losing Dina, and it fuels her rage. Abby conceals guilt over her past, feeding her vengeance. But their love, for Dina, for Lev and Yara, shows, honesty can save. Ask yourself, what are you hiding from those you love? Think of the myth of Perseus. He defeated Medusa not with brute force, but by facing her reflection. The shadow, like Medusa, is terrifying, but you can meet it through the mirror of truth. In Pan's Labyrinth, Ophelia embraces her fears to save her brother, becoming a hero. Ellie and Abby are learning this. Ellie's scared she's unworthy of love, but her bond with Dina is a chance to accept herself. Abby carries guilt for her losses, but caring for Lev and Yara helps her forgive herself. Jung would say, love demands courage to say, I'm not perfect, but I'm worthy of love. In 2025, with Mexico championing family and the states debating gender and identity, this rings true. How often do we hide our shadows, fearing we won't be accepted? Fan stories prove, facing the shadow changes everything. A guy in Peru wrote, I was jealous of my girlfriend, but owning up brought us closer. In Brazil, a woman shared, I was mad at my sister, but talking showed me I was scared of losing her. Ellie and Abby teach us, the shadow isn't the enemy, it's part of us. Embracing it means stopping the run from yourself. In Star Wars, Luke Skywalker faces his shadow in the cave and learns, his fear is part of his strength. Ellie and Abby are still searching for balance, but their path is a mirror. Love demands honesty, even when it's scary. Ask yourself, what's stopping you from being real with those you love? What if one talk could change it all? In 2025, as the world seeks hope, The Last of Us reminds us, the shadow isn't the end. It's the start of a love stronger than fear. But what if embracing the shadow isn't always a lifeline? Jung argued, facing your shadow sets you free. Yet Ellie, diving into her rage, risks losing herself. Her thirst for revenge, her darkness, isn't just a piece of her, it nearly swallows her whole. Picture this, Ellie looms over an enemy, hands shaking, eyes blazing with fury. That's her shadow, but what if she's gone too far? Jung doesn't spell out how to keep your balance. Embracing the shadow sounds poetic, but can it backfire? And how do we, in our own lives, know where the line is between honesty and losing control? Jung believed the shadow is a part of us that we must accept to be whole. But he didn't say it'd be a walk in the park. Ellie, letting rage steer her, drifts from Dina, from her own humanity. Her shadow, pain, fear of losing everything, tempts her to become what she hates. In 2025, psychologists debate, embracing the shadow needs restraint. You can't just say, I'm angry, and that's fine. You have to channel that energy, or it wrecks everything. A fan from the States posted, I own my jealousy, but then nearly tanked my relationship because I didn't know when to stop. Ellie's at the same crossroads. Her rage is her shadow, but without reins, it's her master. How do you draw that line? Think of the myth of Icarus. He got wings to soar, but flew too close to the sun and crashed. Embracing the shadow, like Icarus' wings, offers freedom, but without care, it's a disaster. In Fight Club, the hero embraces his shadow, rage, rebellion, but it ruins his life. Ellie's on that path. Her shadow is her pain, her dread of losing all she loves. But by letting rage lead, she risks losing Dina, her anchor. Jung would ask, how do you embrace the shadow without becoming its puppet? Abby, unlike Ellie, learns to steer her shadow. She channels her anger to protect Lev and Yara, but even she pays a price. In 2025, Argentina's fans write, Abby shows you can tame anger, but it's no easy feat. Why is balance so hard to strike? This struggle plays out in our lives daily. In Mexico, they talk about how family values help curb anger, but what if it's too fierce? In The Dark Knight, Batman embraces his shadow, fury, pain, but directs it to save Gotham. Ellie hasn't cracked that code. Her shadow is both her strength and her downfall. Jung's idea of embracing the shadow is a starting point, not a finish line. Ask yourself, when did you last let anger or fear run the show? What did it cost you? Ellie and Abby show us, embracing the shadow isn't just facing it. It's learning to live with it without losing who you are. But how do you keep from crossing the line where the shadow becomes all you are? So, what's love, really? A beacon shining through the deepest darkness? Or a battle where we learn to embrace our true selves? The Last of Us, Season 2, isn't just a tale of survival. It's a mirror reflecting Ellie and Abby's shadows, and ours. Jung was right. As long as we deny our inner darkness, it tears us apart. But embracing the shadow doesn't mean surrendering to it. It means finding the guts to be honest. Abby, shielding Lev and Yara, shows us, love demands we face our darkness and say, "You're part of me, but not all of me." Ellie, wrestling her rage, reminds us, love is a choice, even when the world screams there's no hope. But what does this mean for us? How can we find love by walking through our own shadows? Ellie and Abby aren't just characters, they're us, terrified of losing those we hold dear. Ellie hides fear behind fury, but her love for Dina is a shot at healing. Abby carries guilt for her past, but her care for Lev and Yara is a step toward forgiveness. Jung said the shadow isn't a curse, it's our humanity. Embracing it means stopping the run from ourselves. In 2025, a fan from Brazil posted, "I was scared to tell my wife the truth, but opening up brought us closer." Love isn't an escape from the shadow, it's a journey through it. Think of the myth of Eros and Psyche. Psyche braved the dark to be with Eros, and her love grew stronger. Ellie and Abby teach us the same, darkness isn't the end, it's a beginning. Recall Forrest Gump. Forrest loved Jenny despite her shadows, and it gave her strength to change. Abby, choosing protection over vengeance, shows, love is the force that tames the shadow. Ellie, even in her anger, clings to Dina because she knows, love is worth the fight. In 2025, with Mexico celebrating family and the states debating gender and identity, their story hits hard. Ask yourself, what are you hiding? What's keeping you from those you love? Jung teaches, the shadow isn't the enemy. It's a part of you begging to be seen. In Argentina, fans write, Abby shows forgiveness starts with yourself. Ellie and Abby are a mirror, showing, love takes courage. So take that step. Face your shadow. Don't fear it. What are you hiding from those you love? Anger? Fear? Shame? Name it. Say it out loud. In 2025, as the world chases hope, Ellie and Abby remind us, being honest with yourself is the first move. Drop in the comments, what shadow's holding you back? How do you deal with it? Let's learn together. The Last of Us isn't just a show. It's a call, embrace your darkness for love's sake. Because love that walks through the shadow is love worth everything. And if you think you know how their story wraps, think again. Your story's just kicking off.